in the inauguration ceremony of Faculty Development Program on Cybersecurity, Challenges and Evolving Solutions. The Department of Computer Science and Engineering, National Institute of Technology, Sikkim, is organizing this 1 week long faculty development program with the financial assistance from AICT Training and Learning Academy, Ministry of Education, Government of India. The FDP aims to provide an insight and research direction in the field of cybersecurity to faculty members, researchers, and PG students. The program was open to the participants comprising early career faculty members, doctoral students, and postgraduate students from computer science and engineering. We have received an overwhelming response from academia and industry throughout the country, and total 118 participants representing 19 states of the country are attending this program. This 1 week long program has total 15 sessions covering all aspects of cybersecurity, starting from basics to advanced stage. Each session will be covered by eminent academicians and experts from academia and industry. All the sessions will be live streamed on the YouTube. In this inaugural session, Professor Sivaji Bandyopadhyay sir will deliver the keynote speech. Later, Professor G.P. Biswas from IIT Dhanbad will talk on quantum cryptography. Tomorrow, first session will be covered by Dr. Konad Bosu from the University of Texas at Dallas, Texas, USA. He will deliver lecture on antivirus hardware, a new domain of system security. The second session will be taken by Dr. Emmanuel S. Pili from MNIT Jaipur on the topic cloud security. The last session of tomorrow will be covered by Dr. Damodar Reddy from NIT Goa on the topic machine learning applications for information security. Third day first session will be covered by Dr. Susmita Roos Madam from the University of New South Wales, Sydney, Australia. She will deliver lecture on blockchains through the cryptographic lens. The second session will be taken by Professor Ramakrishna Chela from NITT at Chandigarh on the topic symmetric key cryptography, challenges and solutions. The last session of third day will be covered by Dr. Arup Kumar Pal from IIT Dhanbad on the topics DNA-inspired data compression and image encryption. Fourth day first session will be covered by Dr. Mo Dasgupta from NIT Raipur on blockchain technology and its application. The second session will be taken by Dr. Swarnendu Chakraborty from NIT Arunachal Pradesh on recent trends in image security. The last session of tomorrow will be covered by Professor Sukumar Nandi from IIT Guwahati. The last day of the program, first session will be covered Dr. Subhashish Banerjee, who will deliver lecture on current trends and futures of authentication and key exchange protocols for Internet of Things. Since stress management is a real challenge during this COVID-19 pandemic, the second session of last day will be taken by experts from Art of Living on stress management. A performance evaluation test will be conducted during the last session of fifth day as per the guidance of Otol Academy. Finally, I hope this 5 days long faculty development program will enhance the knowledge and skills of the participants in the area of cybersecurity and motivate all of them to do research in the emerging area of the technology. So please enjoy each session of this program joyfully. Wishing you all the best. Thank you. Now, I would like to invite our Honorable Director Sir to deliver the welcome address.
Thank you, Sangram. So, good morning to all of you, Honorable Chief Guest, Professor Sivaji Bandyopadhyay, Deans, Heads, faculty members, staff, and dear students, participants of this FDP. I hope you all are safe and healthy because we have witnessed a very hard time in last 2 years. And again, right, another threat has been posed by the uh, right these COVID. So I believe everybody has to be very very careful and right follow the guidelines issued by the Ministry of Health. That is very important for all of us. So at the outset, I would uh, welcome our chief guest, Professor Sivaji Bandyopadhyay, Director, National Institute of Technology, Silchar. As he has readily agreed to be the part of this program, and because he is also from the computer science and engineering, so we find that he will really uh, torch bearer for all of you because security is something which is very very important area, and all of us wish that whatever way we communicate or we share the contents or the information, that should be safe. Our personal data is also in danger, and that is also right very very important. And being the large country, I think this field is becoming more and more important. And apart from this, the our honorable prime minister has also emphasized on the cyber security, and I think this is the responsibility of all the academic institutions to really work in this field so that we can generate our indigenous solutions to various cyber security or in general the security domain, whatever it might be. Many, you can say, the sections or the team has already been in function in the country and under the central government. Some of them are here: Indian Computer Emergency Response Team, National Critical Information Infrastructure Protection Center, guidelines for organizing chief information security officers, cyber swatch kendra, botnet cleaning and malware analysis centers. Then we have regular audit of government websites. So auditing is also becoming very, very important. And I think in time to come, each and every organization as well as institution has to go under this very, very important task of this security audit. Crisis management plan, regular training programs, personal data protection bill, and lot many schemes are in there. And I think all institutions are also working aggressively and being announcing the new programs of academics, right, in different disciplines. But more important is, I think the research community, especially the faculty member, has to work very aggressively. And not only just publishing the paper, I think we have to generate the indigenous solutions. Sometimes because we are not giving adequate you can say the credit to the work done for as far as the practical implementation is concerned, and there are lots of questions are being raised whether what is the novelty and what other things are there. The over the time to come, I think it is the responsibility of the head of the departments like me and Sivaji to find the ways to give the credit for the product development also. It may not be having a very innovative ideas, but at least if a good product is being developed and if it provides the platform for the student learning as well as the faculty research, I think that is a big credit. Because most of the software, when we do the simulation or when we perform some performance analysis, we normally rely on the softwares or the solutions outside the India. And I think in line of the Atmanirbhar Bharat, it's not necessary that you people should work only on publishing the papers. Rather than, I think we have to aggressively work on the development of the real solutions or the practical implementation which are useful to the community at a large. Because this security is something, it's not related to only the academia, but it is also related to the general public. And we all know the general public is very novice and they don't know much integrity sorry much about the security aspects of even their personal data. So that kind of the awareness is also important apart from the technicality, apart from the research, apart from the okay development. And I believe with these inputs, Shivaji will guide us, okay, as well as you can show light what kind of the work you are supposed to do, right? So that we really can say the Bharat is Atmanirbhar and the domain of the cyber security or the security. With this, I once again welcome you all to this FDP, or rather say very, very important on very important topic. I once again highly thankful to for the Sivaji, because I understand how difficult it is to find the time to give a lecture right in the FDP. So much of administrative job, and then when you prepare the lectures, and then you have to really at the being the senior, you have to sometimes see how to justify, and so many things are there. So from on behalf of the NIT and Department of Computer Science and Engineering, right, we really thank you, sir, for agreeing for our proposal. And I also appreciate the hard work done by the organizing team for this, especially the coordinator Sangram and the Department of Computer Engineering. Apart from this, those who have helped the Sangram in organizing this FDP, we also congratulate as well as wish all the success for this FDP. Thank you. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your idea about the several initiatives taken by the government of India and NIT Sikkim towards cyber security. Please keep motivating us for organizing this kind of program to attend our institute in new extent under your dynamic leadership. Now, I am going to introduce our chief guest, Professor Sivaji Bandyopadhyay, sir, Director NIT Silchar. Professor Sivaji Bandyopadhyay sir obtained his Bachelor of Computer Science and Engineering from Jadavpur University in 1985, Master of Computer Science and Engineering from Jadavpur University in 1987, and PhD Engineering from Jadavpur University in 1998. His main research area is natural language processing. He is professor in computer science and engineering at Jadavpur University and since 2001, and currently on LIAN. He had joined as the director of NIT Silchar on 1st December 2017. Prior to that, he was the head Computer Science and Engineering Department, Jadavpur University during 2012 to 2014, Dean Faculty of Engineering and Technology, Jadavpur University during 2013 to 2016, Director, Computer Aided Design Center, Jadavpur University during 2012 to 2017, Coordinator TechIP 3, Jadavpur University during 2013 to 2016, among other responsibilities. Professor Bandyopadhyay has supervised over 14 PhD students, and a total of 12 PhD scholars are currently working under his supervision. He has published around 60 research articles in a reputed journal and more than 350 research publications in reputed conference, workshops, or symposiums. He has also authored 2 books. He has completed 4 international research and development projects with France, Mexico, Japan as the principal investigator in the area of sentiment analysis, question answering, and textual entailment. He was the chief investigator of 18 national level consortium made projects in the areas of machine translation, English to Indian languages, and Indian language to Indian languages, cross-lingual information access, development of free bank for Indian languages, among others. Currently, he is executing 3 international projects funded by SPARC with Germany, ASEAN with Indonesia and Malaysia, PST and CNRS with France. He is currently the principal investigator of the SPARC project on multimodal machine translation in collaboration with Professor Joseph van Genbeet of University of Saarbrücken, Germany. The Center for Natural Language Processing, a research center, has been established at NIT Silchar under his leadership. Professor Bandyopadhyay has various international research collaboration and visited several countries to deliver invited talks. He is regularly organizing the workshop series on sentiment analysis where AI meets psychology. He was the program chair of the 14th International Conference on Natural Language Processing, ICON 2017. Recently, He was the program chair of the 18th International Conference on National Language Processing, ICON 2021, held at NIT Silchar during November 16 to 19, 2021. He has started the International Conference on Big Data, Machine Learning, and Applications in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering at NIT Silchar, and the second Big TML Conference held at NIT Silchar during December 19 to 20, 2021. Professor Bandyopadhyay has published till today 766 research articles in journals, international conference, books, and as book chapters. His research articles achieved 11,000 citations till today with H index 45 and I10 index 255 by the eminent scientists and researchers. So thank you, sir. Thank you for spending your time with us. Now I invite you to deliver the keynote lecture.
Okay, thank you, Sangram.
Sir, shall I present the PPT from here?
Yeah, Sangram, I think that will be good. Okay, so the time Sangram puts it on the sharing mode. So, a very good morning to my colleague, Professor Govil, Director, NIT Sikkim, my colleagues at NIT Sikkim and all other institutes, faculties who have participated in this FDP. Other participants, that is would-be faculties, senior PhD students, master students, and the other, that is the organizers. First of all, obviously, even during this period, I wished that I would have been at NIT Sikkim, but obviously, the current circumstances is not giving us the opportunity to move widely. But before we come to the point of, say, the cyber security, the challenges, evolutions, first of all, I should admit that my research area obviously is natural language processing or language technology. And cyber security is not my area. So when Professor Govil requested me, I thought that, okay, this is a nice opportunity to learn so many things so that I can share the things with you who are present here, maybe from a very basic, but to identify the tasks at hand. But before we come to the topic, so getting such an august gathering where colleagues and would-be colleagues from various institutes across the country. So first of all, say what the National Education Policy 2020 guides us, or what we carry out at NIT Silchar, and similarly at other institutes across the country, people are working on that. That is how to implement the National Education Policy. And so, if we look into some of the important pillars of NEP, one is obviously the faculty upgrade, faculty improvement. And this faculty development program organized by the Otol Academy of AICT that gives us the opportunity. And I think during this period of pandemic and so-called the post-pandemic period, we get the opportunity to learn new things also. So that what we say that research and innovation, that becomes the key factor in today's world. And when we talk about research and innovation, so we not only talk about the PhD or the postgraduate students who will be doing their research activities or innovations, but we primarily focus on the undergraduate students because there is a good workforce, so that we need to utilize properly. And when you talk about research and innovation, I think the way we define it is the translational research. That is the research that we carry out in our laboratory. So how to take it to the society so that the research problems that are necessary to be taken care of, I think that becomes most important. And so we talk about innovative solutions and we give credit for the innovative solutions. But I think the main credit goes in identifying the innovative problems. So when we see that our colleagues are working on, say, the modernization of the handloom industry in the Northeast region, or say from the bamboo dust, how the bamboo water bottles can be prepared, and similar such other things, which has a direct relevance with the society and which so-called that is under the MSME sector that falls into. So we understand that that is the colleagues of the researchers are doing work in the right direction. So it does not mean that basic research need not be carried out. That is also necessary. Research publications are necessary, patents are necessary. But at the same time, what is important is that the research that we carry out in our laboratory that should reach the society. The next important part is the interdisciplinary research. In today's world, that is, though we define our course, BTech courses and MTech courses as belonging to, say, the CSE or electrical or instrumentation or ECE and etc. But study itself is interdisciplinary in nature because the nature or the world itself is interdisciplinary. So that a lot of experiments people are doing, and obviously at this point we should take in mind that not every components of interdisciplinary studies need to be taught in the classroom, because what you taught in the classroom means that you need to have an examination, and the fear of examination basically slows down the learning process of a student. So there are these kind of say the webinars or the topic wise webinars also, or the seminars, conferences, where the students they take part, they learn the things for the joy of learning it. I think this kind of activity is the most important part. And this corona period, when we talk that it has put us into limited mobility, and that puts a mental stress on all of us, including our young students. But we understand that is this has given us the unlimited mobility, unlimited online mobility. I think that is the most important part. Then after that translational research and interdisciplinary research, it comes the internationalization basically. And in the faculty development program that we are part of today, so that has experts from outside the country as well, and that makes it, that is the sharing of knowledge, sharing of ideas also, that makes the whole thing basically most important. And finally, that is, as we have said, when you talk about translational research, it means that the benefits of research has to go to the society. So for that, industry is obviously one vehicle. So industry and academia interaction is the most important part. And for institutions in the northeast part of India, it is not that easy to have that industry institute collaboration because of the geographic terrain and all other issues. So, but that is what we do at NIT Silchar, is to put focus on the MSME sector, that is the micro, small and medium enterprises. And I think similar such focus, and in Sikkim the focus on the organic activities. I think these are the innovative ideas. So looks like very simple thing, but these have a much larger effect on the society and on the economy as well. Now, when you come to the cyber security, I think the issue basically comes about, that becomes more relevant in the last few years, because say the normal movement of the people, So that has a bit of restriction, but the services has to reach the common people. And people are, that is everyone is putting a lot of their personal data on the net. The organizations also, they are relying heavily not only the academic content but also the administrative content, because not only the academic institutions but different industries, organizations, so they are running online. So there are a lot of informations on the web. And so in today's talk, as I have said at the beginning, that I am basically not someone say expert in that cyber security domain, but I can say that as a user, or as a say the guy in the area of computer science and engineering. So today we'll try to share some lights on cyber security and its current status. Next slide. Sangram, next slide. Yeah. So this graph, basically this is known to all of us, is that the number of internet users are going by leaps and bounds. And what was, say, the predicted in June 2021. So but the statistic shows that even in March 2021, we have reaching that number. So and starting from school education to higher education also, and the normal business industry and the business activities, because a lot of things are now being done online. So number of internet users have increased manifold. Though we understand that is for school education, it is really difficult to go online, and so that is where our concern is, because say higher education to some extent can be online. For practical classes, virtual things are coming up. But again, we understand that physical level of one-to-one study and teaching and learning is the most important part. Next slide. Okay, now next slide, Chandra. Yeah. So this is what is basically a cyberspace. That is, we put all our information. That is, we have the internet, we have the telecommunication network, we have the computer systems, then obviously the embedded processors and the controllers. So these are the information technology infrastructure. They are dependent among each other. And in this global domain is the cyberspace. And when we are talking about security, we talk about security in such a global domain, which is defined as the cyberspace. Next. And so the definition we understand, that is that these interconnected systems have to be protected, because say things are generally on the cloud, and so chances of stealing the data, because the world is actually running on data, and any kind of decisions at decision-making systems at any point that depend on the data itself, and the hardware. So be saved basically, because you cannot have a physical mode of saving. Now, cyberspace has inherent vulnerabilities that cannot be removed, because access can be done at any point of time in any way. So we'll have to take precautionary measures, and we'll have to see that people are not able to intrude. And there are innumerable entry points to internet. That is why there is a balancing kind of thing. That is, the attacks goes on and the defense also goes on at the same time. So, and it is difficult to assign the attribution, that is from where the attack actually came. So not an easy task. And the IT technology, that is the internet technology, makes it relatively easy to misdirect attribution to other parties. So that is really a difficult task. And computer network defense techniques, tactics, practices largely protect individual systems and networks. So that is the main paradigm basically. So the defense mechanisms, so they are oriented towards protecting individual systems and networks rather than the services. That is the critical operations or the mission mode services. And interesting is that the attack technology and the defense technology, so attack technology is outpacing and defense technology is trying to say be in tune with that, be in sync with that. And another thing, there is a so-called level playing field, that is the nation states, non-state actors, that is organizations like us and individuals, they are at the same level. So they can wage attacks, all capable of waging attacks and all capable of getting victim to the attacks as well. So that is an interest. So a lot of research issues, I think, that is those who work in the area, that is how to go the defense mechanisms at the service level. So that becomes an important thing, and how to balance the attack technology and the defense technology. And then obviously that is the other standard things like the access to the data, how we can plug the different holes. And it is a dynamic thing basically, that is the most important part. You cannot have one security which will be useful, say, for the coming days as well. Next. We take a look at the evolution of cyber security. So the first level of attack, so the virus, that is the malware basically. Then obviously along with the virus came the antivirus also. So those who were defining the virus software, so at the same time, maybe the same set of people who were defining the antivirus at the same time. So the fight was starting, the firewalls. Then came the issue of worms, and the solutions are in, that is the people who are working on the intrusion detection and the prevention. That is how you can stop someone from intruding into your storage data. Then from say 2000s to the current situation, the botnets, because now the distributed database systems, they are the service provider, things are on the cloud. And so data loss prevention becomes an important task. And through the DLP, so which is a set of tools and processes used to ensure that sensitive data is not lost, misused, or accessed by unauthorized users. Then application-aware firewalls, that's what I was talking initially. That is, these firewalls not only to protect the hardware of the system or the software, but the service levels also. Then the technologies like the source IP address monitoring or SIM, in order to take care of the say the botnets, that is the software bots, they take care of each of the nodes of a distributed system, and they try to control the thing. Then the APT, or the advanced persistent threat, which is a stealthy threat actor, typically a nation state or a state-sponsored group, which gains unauthorized access to a computer network and remains undetected for an extended period. So in recent times, we have seen that at the state level, say in some countries of the world, that is what can happen. So these are some debatable issues, but again, so things are in that direction. And we have insider threat, I think that is one of the important issues, but because as you are expanding your organization, so you need to have people who are entrusted with maintaining the security. So they know a lot of vulnerable information, and these insiders actually can play a havoc role also. So there it becomes the network flow analysis, that is who is making an entry at some undefined point, and so that through the flow analysis you identify that is a system, because the thing is prevention in the cyber security is the most important part, and the steps that each of us need to take, which is a cyber user, I think that is the most important issue, and that the technologies come to help us in the prevention issue, as well as if something happens, how to recover from that part. So attacks are basically the active and the passive attacks. So passive attacks, basically they try to gather the information. They does not disturb anything in your system. So through the passive attack, so sometimes you can identify the system is slowing down because a lot of parallel tools are running in the system, which are collecting regular information and which are implanting themselves in your different files and the other services. And if the system say can be more cautious when this kind of symptoms, it is something like a disease kind of thing, the doctor can identify that something is coming up, then the medicines actually they work. So when the passive attacks can be detected, so then the issue before the active attacks actually spills a role that is disturbs your whole system, so that actions can be taken. Next. So here we talk about different kinds of cyber threats. I think the whole set of 15 cyber threats which you have identified. And first of all, what I should say that this set of slides were collected from different sources. And some of the links we have given at some points. So first of all, the threats has a sequence kind of thing. So starts from malware, that is the malicious software, and that includes the virus, that is the worms, Trojan, spyware, adware, ransomware, etc. Then the web-based attacks, then phishing, which is a type of social engineering where an attacker sends a fraudulent message designed to trick a human victim into revealing sensitive information to the attacker. For example, say people like us, say our colleagues say that, sir, we have received a mail from your name. So I immediately tell him, why don't you check the email ID from which that mail has come? Because the signature may match my name, the spelling itself, everything correctly. But before opening the mail, you identify that what is the source. And you can see that it is not the defined email ID through which I communicate. So this is a blatant example of a phishing situation. And sometimes people ask for money. Sometimes they say that, okay, that is, say, they spread some canards against that. So that is what phishing is all about. Then web application attacks, that is through some services that goes into, that is the attacks are coming. And these web application attacks are something like the SQL injection attacks, because in your loopholes in the script, so this SQL injection attack can gather information. So generally through this SQL injection, they try to do some small changes here and there to show that they are present. And generally the website attacks unless that is why the regular auditing becomes important. That is, what are the loopholes, and obviously the hackers are always trying to gather control of the website, and this is a quite commonplace thing at the institution level. That is the websites basically when there are attacks from outside. Then the issue of the email spams. Then the distributed denial of service, DDoS, which attack is a malicious attempt to disrupt the normal traffic of a targeted server. It is something like, say booth jamming, you can say. So there is a regular flow of people, and suddenly there is a disruption of the normal traffic or the normal movement to a targeted server, service, or network, by overwhelming the target or its surrounding infrastructure with a flood of internet traffic. Then identity theft and the DDoS attacks, they achieve effectiveness by utilizing multiple compromised computer systems as sources of attack traffic. And in the case of IoT devices, that is, which are interconnected, so this kind of DDoS attacks become more commonplace, because several systems, they are running and sharing data among themselves, and so the bots can take charge of each of the units, and then they can work in a malicious attempt to disrupt the normal service. Identity theft occurs when someone uses another person's personal identity information without their permission. This is something like you share your details with someone and then forget to change it. So this looks like a very simple kind, but many attacks have come out of that. Then the data breach is an incident where information is stolen or taken from a system without the knowledge. So in identity theft, so sometimes you might have the knowledge of it, the credit card number you shared with others. In case of data breach, information is stolen or taken from a system without the knowledge or authorization of the system's owner. Insider threat comes from people within the organization, some from employees, some from formal employees. For example, if some actions have been taken on a formal employee and that employee was supposed to know some details also. So these kind of things, organization security practices, so that can be breached, etc. Then the issue of the botnets, that is wherever there are interconnected devices, so each of which runs one or more bots. And botnets can be used to perform the distributed denial of service attacks as well. Then physical manipulation, damage, theft, and the loss. That is quite commonplace, and that can be really the spoil sport in many cases. Then information leakage, when that is a system that is designed to be closed to an eavesdropper, reveals some information to an unauthorized parties nonetheless. So when secret information correlates with or can be correlated with observable information. Ransomware, that employs encryption to hold a victim's information at ransom. So an user or an organization's critical data is encrypted so that they cannot access files, and in return they basically say that, okay, we have encrypted your file, and unless you pay this amount of money, that is, we cannot return it back. So for the active databases, that is why it is always advisable to make it running, because on an active data storage, the ransomware actually cannot work. So that has to leave that separately. So one thing that is lying idle basically for a sufficient period of time, ransomware basically can store. Then cyber espionage or cyber spying, unauthorized user attempts to access sensitive or classified data or IP for economic gain, etc. Then cryptojacking, so that refers to the unauthorized use of people's devices by cyber criminals to mine for cryptocurrency. So starting from malware to cryptojacking, so the cyber threats are they have such a set of variations, and so it includes passive attacks, it includes active attacks as well. But as I have said, that passive attacks are not easy to detect. Something like, say, whether you have influenza or you have COVID, so whether you have real attack or something like, say, your system has slowed down because there are a lot of programs at startup. So these kind of issues become most important. And the active attacks are when the attack has really taken place, your system is down. So how to recover, how to make the precautionary measure beforehand. Next slide. So just a profile, that is about the least cyber secure countries. And you can see that India is the 6th least among them. So obviously the country as a whole, we need to do a lot of things. And as Professor Govil was pointing out, that is these software solutions to take the country from a least cyber secure, that is 6th in the line, to a cyber secured country. I think that becomes most important, and the solutions had to be indigenous, because we cannot rely on a software which is developed elsewhere, because then the chances of leaking the information, that still remains. So the probability that you use more and more software services which are obtained from outside the country, the chances are that is your information leakage becomes important. And in today's world, when in today's country, when the focus is on the e-governance at the say the fingertips of every individual in the country, so informations are stored on the web, on the cloud, and so the vulnerability of the information becomes very important. And so there are several players who always work to make the data more vulnerable. And we see that is the statistics that are shown here. It shows that in terms of attacks, so Indian attackers play a big role, an important role in different areas. And in terms of the victims also, say the country becomes the victims. So in many cases, that is what you see that is on both sides. So we have the expertise. So I think so the idea of the ethical hacking, it looks like a misnomer kind of thing to me, because hacking is always hacking, and without taking permission from someone, if you are able to collect that information, that is basically hacking. But you need experts basically to do the auditing, to see that your system is secure. So that becomes important. So next slide, please. These are some examples of cyber attacks in India of late, and that is the loss of data. That is some are at the bank level. Then ransom seeking hackers were also there, and the targets are generally say the state utilities or the local administration utilities. Then the big collection, big database data there with the online service provider. So the threat of their data, so that becomes very vulnerable. Then some of the important economic functions like the container handling function at a terminal. So they are the making the data vulnerable to attack and actually attacking the data, so that the economic activities basically stop for a while. And another important area that is where I think that is the nationwide smart grid through his electricity basically shared across the country. I think that is also another vulnerable area, and lot of security environments have to be put in place and on a regular basis, so that the lifeline of the country. So similar things are railways, the banking, etc., where this becomes important. But the thing is, you'll have to expand. You'll have to expand your cyber services, cyber resources, and the challenges will also be coming in the form of cyber attacks. So it is a continuous fight, and no one can rest assured. Next one. Again, some recent cyber attacks in the last few years. And the target is obviously the storage of data. Sometimes you might be thinking that is what these people will be doing with all these data, but that is the starting point. Now, because people give their identity numbers, and sometimes through that they basically expose their bank details or the financial details, and that becomes very important. So that is why I say one of the simple kind of prevention is to regularly check your password, and so password has to be such that is not easily identifiable by an attacker. But that is really not a very say the easy task. Next one. If we look into the cyber disruptions, because the kind of preventive measures and the technology that you put in place, that is when there are active attacks. So phishing email is the most important part, and what we understand, that is obviously identification of the source becomes important, but again awareness is the most important part, because through phishing email, that is what we have personally experienced. That is, it goes to the common, most of the case, colleagues or known people. They know your name. They think that the email has come from this particular known person, and he or she is in distress, asking for money. And there are some clickable items, but there is links, and you submit, or you some amount of money there. So phishing email, you see that there is the the higher percentage. Then poor user practices or gullibility. I think that is like, say, the password has to be changed quite often. Then lack of cyber security training at the organization level. I think that this becomes most important. That is, which security measures you should be putting in place. Then weak passwords or access management at the institutional level, that becomes very, very important. How regularly that is done, or who have direct access to these passwords. So that is, whether there is a single source, there are single person who is looking after it, or there are more than that, whether there is any leakage. Then open remote desktop access, I think that is another source. And in today's say the online world, so in many cases, so we provide access to our student, our desktop access to our students who is, say, back home, and through that remote desktop access. So in many cases, the chances of cyber attacks become easier. Then clickbait, that is also important percentage of that is the situation, which is an internet content that uses overemphasized or misleading headlines to lure a person into clicking a link. That is, in most of the cases, like the clickbait, you can find that the headline of your email looks very interesting, but that is, you try to click on that, but the source might be, that is, whatever you see on the snippet site, that is, source is something which you are not known. So that is an unknown, and in all the cases, it's better to delete that mail, because if some good news is coming from some sources, so that must be one of the authentic sources, because otherwise we don't need some, like that, say you have won an award or you have won recognition kind of thing, without any proud official information through other channels. So in same information coming from multiple channels is another way of looking into the veracity or the appropriateness of the data. Then malicious websites. So that is, it looks something like a very tricky one. In some of the important conferences, we have noticed that is just by the checking, say, changing 1 or 2 characters in the website address. So for the similar named conferences, so there are websites, so people submit paper there, so they accept it, and they ask for a registration fee. And once they collect the data, then they go into oblivion. And otherwise, you think that, okay, your paper manuscript has been accepted by such a reputed organization. So, so that becomes very important. And these malicious websites also becomes an issue when you are accessing, say, the banking website, because with a slight change in 1 or 2 characters here and there, so the malicious websites can lure you. And the lost and the stolen user credentials are not very less, 10% of all. So what these statistics basically shows are, this graph, the cyber disruptions, is that the main technology actually lies with us, the cyber users, because in many cases, that is, we need to have steps so that this kind of cyber attacks we can take care of. Obviously, there are situations, that is, there are technologies like, say, cyber security training. So for a big organization, so because that is not dependent on a single individual, so you need to have technology measures in place. Then when you are giving a remote desktop access, the remote desktop protocols, RDP becomes important. So what is important is the that is the as a cyber user. So what are going to be our roles basically? Next slide. So again, these are statistics taken from some sources, but again it shows that, for example, outsiders of an organization, they perform most of the attacks. And internal actors, they also play not a lesser role. I think that becomes very important. And state affiliated actors, then multiple parties, that is less, involved partners who are in the business, that is very less in number. But again, these are statistical, and organized criminal groups, so they also do the thing. So the different, that is the cyber security forces, so they basically continuously monitor it, because monitoring becomes important. And in that case, any exchange of information that happens over the cyber by, say, the malicious groups, there the role of the natural language processing or the language technology becomes important. That is the text analysis and other kinds of information exchange analysis. So through that, people, that is these intelligence agencies, they try to decipher, that is what is actually going on in the background. And social media monitoring, that becomes another issue, because anyone can join there. And the kind of cryptic information if people share, so that becomes noticeable. But knowing that something cryptic is going on, and then identifying that what is actually the message that they were supposed to send. So they are the role of the cyber security people and the NLP people. So that becomes very important. Next. So again, some statistics like, say, featured breaches, featured hacking, 62%. Then half of the breaches included malware. Hacking related breaches leveraged either stolen and or weak passwords. You see that is the highest percentage. So that, because people are basically not aware, that is when say people keep multiple say the credit cards, debit cards, and other details. Then social attacks. Then the causal events, privilege misuse, then physical actions. So what we say, let us take note that the highest percentage comes from the stolen and or the weak passwords. That is where again the users, the cyber users, have a role to play. Okay, next one. And the malware, they were installed by malicious email attachments, because many a times actually, but that is by looking into the subject of the email, we are lured to open the email. Then financially motivated, sometimes say that you have won an award, or say you have been allotted a loan of this amount, and etc. Then a very small, less percentage is related to espionage. Then discovered by breaches discovered by third parties, because many a times we receive emails that your website is vulnerable. Maybe that person himself or herself was trying to enter the system, so they were able to do some changes here and there. So something like ethical informer kind of thing. Next. So what we see that is attackers are moving down the stack of the application environment. On the top is the data, and applications obviously relate on the data, and the decision support systems, that is the AI or the machine learning based systems. So the data and the collection of the data, that becomes most important. So applications are regularly targeted. Then through the data, it reaches the applications, so that the disruption can be much more. Data files are easy to infect or tamper with, but very limited in value to attackers, because the applications can still be running, and only one part of the data can be stolen. So security tools are adept at scanning for malicious files, normally used as a vector to infect apps or OS. Then after application, it comes to the operating system level. They are more difficult to compromise. The OS works on the firmware as well as the hardware, which are the most difficult to do the attack. Firmware and hardware attacks are the most difficult to accomplish, but can affect the very root of the system trust, avoid detection, and are difficult to evict. And again, the fight basically goes on. That is when the attacker moves down the stack and the system tries to secure itself. Next slide. So challenges are increasing in the cyberspace domain. So the attacks are increasing. Different kinds of attack: insider attack, then data and policy corruption, code manipulation, malware, worms, viruses, flooding, life cycle implants of backdoors. That is, once they enter the system, they actually try to, similar to the virus, they try to generate more and more such copies. Then physical destruction, eavesdropping, then the targets, and with the more and more net centricity and the interoperability, that increases the risk of the cyber attacks. And the mitigation is a challenge because it requires development environment access control, architectural considerations, technology and tools, and informed operator responsiveness. So challenges are increasing, and during the 5 days of the program, I think individual challenges will be taken care of, will be discussed in more details, and how to take the technology measures in order to prevent it. Next slide. So as the services become more and more complex, that is, the damage can occur more quickly. So what earlier was to take days and then say hours, so now it takes minutes and in many cases seconds also. That is, before you identify, so that the system tries to continuously monitor whether an attack is coming or not, and try to that is, warn you before that. But it takes basically very little time for the threats to actually activate themselves. So that becomes the real challenge. So the shrinking time frame from knowledge of vulnerability to release of exploits. So that is the real challenge of today. That is the time distribution. Next slide. So the anatomy of attack and how we can come out of it. So the motivation for attack is basically the attacker will have an objective and will have to identify, they identify the resources where they will be actually doing the attack. So in many cases, say, finance is the most important part, but vulnerable information which disrupts the system. Say, for example, in a smart city environment where the services are monitored by an internet, that is the IoT-based systems. So there, it becomes a motivation for the attacker to basically work on that. Then after the attacker is motivated to do something on such system, so then the attacker tries to discover, that is, tries to gather the data or the target identification, that is how to enter. Then for that, the probing goes on, identify the vulnerabilities, the scanning, the enumeration, then the penetration, initial penetration to gain access, create foothold. So till now, it is basically the passive kind of attack. Then escalate, gain escalated privileges, the root access. So it tries to damage, it tries to attack the thing. Then expand, multiple footholds, then paths, backdoors, then persisting, that is obfuscate presence. So something like a cancerous kind of situation. And then finally execution, that is exploit, extraction, attack to active objects. So this is the way, that is the attacker. So attacker gives enough time in that sense, that is from the different one stage to another stage to a particular system or a distributed system. So that is we should say that is the reason the attacks are actually very less in number, but whenever they are occurring, they are actually playing the spoil sport. So background information, so people are always having the backups, but again, recovery becomes the most important part. But before that, the loss of important information, that becomes the most important issue. Next slide, please. So the cyber security framework, because the last slide is we actually saw that how the attacker will be working. So in the cyber security framework, so identification is the first step. So identification of your assets, business environment, governance, risk assessment, risk management strategy, because these are the areas that is where the attack can take place. Then you'll have to take some protective measure. So which includes access control, awareness and training, data security, info protection processes and procedures, maintenance, then protective technology. But in spite of this protection mechanism, so the attack can take place. So passive and then followed by active. So the detection mechanisms has to be there, which includes anomalies and events, security continuous monitoring, detection processes. So the system will have to quickly respond, and I think that is the most important part, that is before further damage. So it is a damage not only in terms of the resources, it is sometimes at the, if it happens at the state level, no? So that is the trust on the state level system service that becomes most important. So response is the important part. So response planning, that is before the thing happens, you'll have to plan, that is how quickly you can have, then communications, analysis, mitigation, and improvements, further improvements, so that this kind of attacks does not take place. And you'll have to recover quickly, so that people store the backup copies and the logs of the updates also in a banking environment, for example, in every process-based system. So recovery is the important part. Then recovery planning, that is even before these detection, response, etc. So you'll have to do have your plan, and you'll have to run your say that is systems so that the appropriate steps they are in place. So improvements and communications. So this shows the cyber security framework, and it involves human involvement, it humans technology involvement as well. Next slide. So in the case of IoT cyber security vulnerabilities, because IoT systems are more vulnerable, then operational security, because these IoT-based services, they require continuity and high availability. So because they are interdependent also. Then privacy, because you can automatically say open the door of your house only by yourself, and you cannot give access to someone else. So valuable data require protection. Then software patching. So many IoT devices lack human users who can install security updates. Then identity of things. Each implementation requires a unique approach to manage authentication and access. And the logging system must identify events without relying time of day data. That is, who are logging into the system and at what time of the day. So these things become important. Next slide. 10 steps to cyber security. One is obviously the network security. You'll have to manage your networks, protect your networks, filter out unauthorized access and malicious contents. Then malware protection, and produce relevant policy and establish anti-malware defenses that are applicable and relevant to all business areas. Scan for malware across the organization. Next. Monitoring is the key. Establish a monitoring strategy and produce supporting policies. Then incident management, incident response, and then disaster recovery capability. These are very important parts. Then user education and awareness, because not only technical people like us, but also the common people need to be made aware, because everyone is putting a lot of their data into their smartphone and they are using it, and sometimes they are not very serious. Then home and mobile working. So mobile working policy and train staff to adhere to it. So then secure baseline to all devices. Protect data both in transit and at rest. That is what is basically the requirement nowadays. People will be working on the move. Next. Then secure configuration, apply security patches and ensure that the secure configuration of all ICT systems is maintained. Then removable media control, all access to removable media, limit media types and use. Scan all media for malware before importing on the corporate system. Because once you take out a removable media from your system, you make it open to the other people in your organization. So they are the physical kind of information exchange. Say one disk can be exchanged for example for in lieu of another disk also. Then managing user privileges, that is whom you are giving and taking the authentication from them. And then information risk management regime. I think that becomes very important. Effective governance structure and determining your risk appetite. Next one. So human resources are required, and there are shortage of experience and expertise also as well. Human resources for making people aware, but also developing the technologies. And many cases, these technologies are the software themselves, so which instead of bringing them from outside, we'll have to develop them. So in the cyber security domain, it is good that more and more researchers are working in this area. And so the effect is most important while you are doing research in cyber security. You'll have to offer courses on cyber security to all the students. At least each and every technology and the science student before passing out must have some basic idea about cyber security. And so they not only learn it themselves, but they spread it to the society as well. So massive cyber security awareness training to all internet users. So in the locality at each industry level. So with institutions like us, they need to carry out. Then training on secure coding. So that is a thing that CSE and the other branches of students, they must be learning. That is coding, so that the external influences are not that much possible. Yeah, next one. Some cybercrime prevention tips. Use strong passwords. Secure your computer. Be social media savvy. That means be aware of, say, what is happening actually. Be on the social media, but what kind of information you will be sharing, I think that is the most crucial part. Secure your mobile devices. This is for all general people. Install the latest operating system updates, because otherwise your system may become more vulnerable. Protect your data. Technology comes in, you take regular backup, but whatever offline data you are storing, you see that they are actually physically identified by you and not accessible to others. Secure your wireless network, because in many organizations, the wireless network is easily vulnerable one, because you have some guest password kind of thing. Whenever guests arrive in your organization, you give it to them, but generally people forget to change the guest password, and that becomes quite accessible in the local by region. protect your e-identity, avoid being scammed, and call the right person for help. So that becomes important because no one knows, because things are interconnected. So if you have got into trouble, it is better to call for support from say cybercrime.gov.in, and so that they can take care and they can check whether that is what is the level of the attack at this level. Next. So some case studies, like say the ATM schemer. It is like a device that is which can read your ATM details. The card is rigged into the card reader, and so through that basically that is the card details are read, and online it can go to that is the hacker, and through that that is you have to be aware that is when you are doing your transaction at an ATM. Then point of sale malware is to steal information related to financial transaction, credit card information, that is your POS machine and the corresponding software. So that can be your point of sale. So based on your perception, so generally we do not use our point of sale or our credit card at all the places. Then so there are some methods, because when the credit card detail is read, say by the point of sale POS machines, so in the RAM, that is before the analysis is done, the credit card number is actually stored there, and this 16 digit of number, so that is stored internally in an encrypted format, so that the attacker also, and that encryption format, that is the LUNS algorithm, that is the attacker also can identify, but because in a say 64 megabyte or 128 MB RAM, it is not easy to identify that is which is the sequence of 16 digits that is storing the credit card number. So it requires a lot of analysis also. But again, so that is the way the attackers basically work. And so next slide, let's go to that. So in a system, so there, you build the system, then when you are looking for your auditing, so there say the red team is basically they actually simulate the attacks, and the defension team, they basically tries to defend the system. So the pyramid, the build, attack, and the defend pyramid, and so that takes care of the whole thing. And on the arcs, we have the that is builder changes based on attacker knowledge. So that is the orange level, that is based on the attacker. So one is a defense mechanism, another is basically the builder, that is the software is say the major changes are carried out. And then the green mode, that is the builder changes based on the defender knowledge. So this is how a system basically works. You initially build the system, there you continuously monitor the attacks, you continuously try for the defense mechanism, and so the builder changes the software based on the attacker information, based on the defender information, and the defender changes based on the attacker knowledge also. That is how this BAT pyramid, or the build, attack, and the defend pyramid basically works. Next slide. So we have come to the end, and so I have not tried to go into the detailed mechanisms because during these next 5 days of the program, you will be coming across it. But say what I think we understand from here a relatively rough idea about what can be the different types of cyber threats, and in today's world how vulnerable our information are. But I think at the same time we have also understood that there are passive attacks and there are active attacks, and passive attacks basically try to collect the information from our collected that is the important sources, And so we must do have techniques so that during the passive attack, the system identifies that something is bad is going on, so that the steps can be taken accordingly. But in spite of the passive attack being monitored, so because something like a cancer kind of thing, so active attacks will still take place where the technology becomes important. And we understand that the attack basically comes on the data, its applications, and the operating system level also. So seldom attacks it is difficult to attack the hardware. But vulnerability of the system becomes important because slowly, everything is running on the e-platform, and so the governance activities, the financial activities, the academic activities, and so on. So the gaining access at any point of time, we understand that it is basically very easier, but I think user awareness and taking the small steps that becomes most important, because when you have looked into the percentage of the effects, the cause and the effects, then we see that the technology obviously play a bigger role, but individual awareness and the awareness at the common people level, I think that becomes most important. So with this, I once again thank Professor Govil, the organizers, Sangram specifically, because I happen to be in his selection at one point of time, and I understand there is a kind of leadership role that he is giving to the department at such a young level. So organizing such conferences, having papers with the active support of the director of NIT Sikkim, I think these are commendable things. So thanks to the organizers also, and one day I wish that I will be able to visit NIT Sikkim to interact personally with you, and specifically with the CSE department faculty. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for enlightening on the different kinds of cyber threats, attacks, and their defense. I hope all the participants are really motivated from here to take it further in their academic career. Thank you, sir, for being here in spite of your busy schedule. I hope we will get your valuable time in future too for our NIT Sikkim fraternity. And also, we look forward your physical presence in our campus in near future, whenever the pandemic situation will be over.
Okay.
Thank
you.
Now, sir, I request our present head of the department, Dr. Pottoy Kuila, to deliver vote of thanks.
Okay.
Hello. Honorable Director, sir, Professor Mohesh Chandra Govil ji, respected Chief Guest, Professor Sivaji Bandyopadhyay, sir, Director NIT Silchar, all the deans, HODs, dear participants, valuable experts, ladies and gentlemen. I, Dr. Pottoy Kuila, on behalf of the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, NIT Sikkim, and the organizing committee of the AICTE Atal Faculty Development Program on Cyber Security Challenges and Evolving Solutions, the faculty members and on my own behalf, I extend a very hearty vote of thanks to all the speakers for sharing their valuable knowledge with us. I also like to express my sincere thanks to Professor Mohesh Chandra Govil ji, Director NIT Sikkim, for his motivations and support to organize the FDP. I express my sincere thanks to the chief guest, Professor Sivaji Bandyopadhyay sir, for sharing his valuable knowledge and time with us. I also thankful to the coordinator, Dr. Sangram Dey, and research scholars, and all the faculty members of the department for their support. Finally, I am also thankful to all the participants, the sponsoring organizing organizer like Atal Academic AICTE and NIT Sikkim. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Pottoy and Sangram, and all my colleagues, all participants for being here. Thank you. Okay, I'm leaving, huh?
My dear participants, so please, first session is over. So please join at 1:50 p.m. for the next session, which will start from 2 p.m. sharp.
Thank you, sir.